Hey, listeners. Before we jump into this unique episode of the Natural Birth Talk, I want to give you a trigger warning. We are talking about stillbirth with a subsequent home delivery. This is part one of a two-part story told by Jillian. I hope you find this episode enlightening. Hi, I'm Rachel, owner of the Natural Birth site, certified birth doula, childbirth educator, and midwife's assistant.
And I'm Tiffany Munez, certified birth doula, lactation counselor, and midwife assistant.
Here, you'll learn all about different aspects of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
Remember, none of this information should take the place of your care provider and is not medical advice.
Birth is not a medical emergency.
Thanks for listening.
Hey, listeners, welcome to the Natural Birth Talk. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Tiffany.
And today we are here with Jillian, who is the daughter of a local birth worker. Trigger warning, we are talking about stillbirth in this video. Jillian is in this episode, Jillian is going to share her story. She had a stillbirth and then a home delivery. And she's going to share her story of kind of how that came about, how she decided to stay home versus going to the hospital and things like that. And she just really wants to get that story out there. Jillian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jillian Bien. I'm 27 years old, from St. Louis. My parents moved there when I was little, pretty much grew up there. I am married to my wonderful husband, Will, and he is in the Air Force. So we are currently back in Florida, where he is stationed until the end of November. And I guess I should also mention I'm a childbirth educator. I just recently got my certification back in April with ICEA.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It took forever. Mostly because anytime something is like self-paced, it's really easy to like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah. I can do that. And then, 2 years later, you're like, oh no, I forgot to finish that thing. So
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's it. I'm excited to be here and to talk to you guys about my experience.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Why don't you go ahead and just kind of start from the beginning? And you can even tell us like how you decided to have a home birth just from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, the decision to have a home birth was kind of a no-brainer. And that was influenced because of a lot of secondhand anecdotal experiences.
Yeah.
And my own kind of research and digging into natural birth and, home birth and what does that look like. But for the past, probably 4 or 5 years, a lot of my friends and some of my family members have had children, and pretty much everyone who had, and this is not universal across the boards, but pretty much everybody who had a hospital birth just didn't like it for one reason or another. A lot of the times it was they didn't feel respected in their decision making. They felt like the hospital staff was kind of pushy. There was a lot of, cascades of interventions, like, oh, we'll just do this. And then, oh, well, now that we've put you on Pitocin, like, we need to do this. And then the next thing you know, it's a whole thing. And that's, so, and for me, I am a very, or I was a very non-confrontational person. And I did not want to be in a situation where, like, I knew what I wanted to have happen for whenever I got pregnant and was going to be in labor. I knew how I wanted it to go. I knew, like, okay, I don't want to see these things happen, but I definitely want to see these things happen. But I knew that in times of, like, stress, that if somebody else who was kind of more authoritative said, well, no, you can't do that, I would not be in the frame of mind while in the middle of labor to argue with them.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want there to be like, well, my doula would, advocate for me, or my husband would advocate for me. But I'm like, I just don't really want that to crop up at all. I don't want there to be contention. I don't want there to be power struggle, if you will. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this at home. And my mother, like you said, is a birth worker in the St. Louis area. She was a high risk labor and delivery nurse for 12 years. And then she stayed home to raise myself and my siblings. And then after I graduated high school, started getting back into doula work in the area. So I felt pretty confident with the conversations that I had with her, my own research, and then just listening to stories and just kind of being adjacent to the birth world, that I'm like, I think I can do this. There's no reason that I can't. The bodies are made to do this. And it's really what I want. And I think it would be better for myself, and it would be better for my baby if I just chose to do a home birth. So that's kind of, so that's basically what led me to that decision.
Okay. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So then if you want to just jump right into the birth itself, hopefully my 4-year-old will not interrupt us again, but if she does,
Hey,
it is what it is.
It is what it is, right?
Mom life and birth worker life is constantly being, dictated by tiny humans. So that's, I get it.
Yep.
I'm also the youngest of 4, so I'm used to being like, well, hold on, I got to take care of so and so, and then I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where to start? Like I said, my husband and I are living down in Florida. We were living here when I found out I was pregnant.
Okay.
And then he had to go on a deployment for 5 months. And we did the math, and we were like, well, okay, yeah, I think you'll be back in time for the birth. It would be like pretty close, because I was due early May and he was supposed to come back at the beginning of April.
Okay.
Ended up coming back closer to like mid-April. So we decided, you know what? He's going to be gone on this deployment. I'm going to go back home to be by my family so that I have the support that I need during that time. And so that's what we did. So end of November, I moved back up to St. Louis. My parents were very gracious and let me, freeload off of them for the rest of my pregnancy. And that was really great. And that resolved another issue, because when I was here in Florida, I was trying to find a home birth midwife, and I was running into some problems because there was really only one that would work with me, and she accepted our insurance, which was great, but that's a whole other story. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time finding care. And then when I came up to Missouri, interviewed around, and then ended up settling with, well, not settling, that sounds bad. Finding Harmony Home Birth, Health and Home Birth, I think it is, over in Illinois. And I just really liked Casey and Megan. They were great. So I was like, okay, great, wonderful. I've got my team. I've got the stuff. I'm doing the pregnant lady life.
Hey everyone, Rachel Manns here, and today I have something I'm thrilled to share with you guys. Imagine having a treasure trove of informative, entertaining, and empowering video content about the journey to parenthood right at your fingertips. That's exactly what you get with Informed Pregnancy Plus. For less than 25 cents a day, that's a quarter, guys, you'll gain access to a vast subscription library filled with documentary films, web series, mind and body fitness programs, workshops, and courses covering fertility to parenting and everything in between. Designed for new and expectant parents, as well as pregnancy and birth professionals, Informed Pregnancy Plus is like having a trusted BFF and doctor in one, guiding you through every step of the path to and through parenthood. A few of just my favorite titles are obviously The Business of Being Born, Empowered Mama, Belly Dance for Birth, how fun is that? Ease into Sleep, the afterbirth plan, and the core connection. An extremely well presented and informative workshop teaching you about your core and pelvic floor and how to keep them healthy. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can gain full access absolutely free. Just visit informedpregnancy.tv to sign up. Sign up for Informed Pregnancy Plus right now. I'm not kidding, guys. It's really going to help you out. It's my prescription for your informed and empowered parenting journey, all from the comfort of your home. Visit informedpregnancy.tv. That's informedpregnancy.tv, and the link will be in the description below. Now back to the show. Which I don't know if you knew this, but Tiffany and I are both assistants for Harmony.
Oh, really?
Like when Megan can't attend, Tiffany and I are two of the other options that will come and attend as an assistant sometimes with Harmony.
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's so wonderful.
So that was kind of funny. But anyway, keep going.
That is so funny. It's like only half a degree of separation then. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was doing the, pregnant lady life, eating all the good, like all the right foods, going to the chiropractor, trying to do all the things. And my little guy, because I had a boy, sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
His name's Liam. And he was always perfect. Like every single, he passed all of the testing, like the genetic testing that they do. And then he passed the, like we didn't have gestational diabetes. Like, honestly, my pregnancy was like practically textbook. Like everything went fine. I didn't even have like weird cravings during my pregnancy. So it was, breathtakingly normal. So, we're just going along. April finally comes and my husband finally gets home and it's like, okay, great, wonderful. Like we can finally kind of start shifting gears and like, the things. And I'm trying to like summarize the story and get it down to like the brass tacks, which disclaimer, I'm not good at that. Even
That's okay.
I'm one of those people that's like, long story short, and then tells you a
10-minute story.
20.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's okay.
Like, any story is worth telling, telling all of the unnecessary details.
Agreed.
Thank you. So, April comes, like end of April or mid to end of April. My husband comes home finally, and we started talking about like, okay, you're 39 weeks, you're 40 weeks, or like you're 39 weeks. Maybe we should start end of pregnancy protocols. Drink the raspberry leaf tea, eat the dates, do the things. And it was weird because I just kind of felt like I did a couple of things. Like I was, doing the mile circuit a couple of times. I was trying to eat dates and I was trying to do the things we know that'll kind of help naturally prepare you. But I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't feel super stressed to like, okay, yeah, we need to do everything we can right now to try to get this baby out. Cause I'm like, I'm 39 weeks, I'm a first time mom. You almost always go 41 weeks or more. Like that's just, it's kind of normal. I had my last prenatal appointment with Casey, and she listened to baby's heartbeat. She listened, and it was perfectly fine. She took my blood pressure, my heart rate, everything was fine. So that was Thursday. It was on a Thursday.
Okay.
And then,
how far along were you at that point, Jillian?
I was 39 and some odd days.
Okay.
So Thursday I went to the doctor's appointment, and then that Sunday I was 40 weeks.
Okay.
So like a couple days later, I don't know, bad at math.
Yeah.
So 40 weeks on Sunday. By that Tuesday, my husband Will and I went to Walmart because we we had to get a couple of things for my mom, and then there was a couple other odds and ends from the baby shower that we wanted to pick up, like things that we hadn't gotten from a registry. And my mom was like, oh, and make sure you get yourself some snacks for labor because you haven't gotten anything, and we're getting kind of close to that time, so you should probably get some stuff.
Okay.
And so we went to Walmart, and we were walking around, and I remember leaning on the cart, and I remember like kind of trying to walk and feeling like my steps were a lot shorter than normal. Like I couldn't just walk.
Okay.
And I'm like, huh, that's weird. And so I kind of like pressed on my tummy, and I was like, ooh, my uterus is really tight. That's interesting. And so
You were just having a contraction.
I was just having a contraction, which I was like, oh, okay, pretty sure that's what this is. Because my mom had told me, like, this is kind of what it feels like. This is what to look out for. And so I looked at Will, and I was like, hey, I think I'm having contractions. Probably isn't anything to worry about, but just giving you a heads up. Contractions here in the chip aisle, And he just kind of looks at me, and his eyes got a little bit bigger, but he was like, okay, sounds good. We're just gonna, let's just get through this list as fast as possible and get home. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great plan. So that's what we did. And then by the time that we got back to my parents' house, I pretty much walked through the door, and I looked at my mom, and I'm like, I think I'm having contractions. And she looked at me, and she was like, because she, on her face, you could tell, like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's the matter? And I was like, I don't feel great. I think I'm having contractions. And she's like, okay, great. Go. I think she told me to go sit down or go to the bathroom, or I don't know what. Because my original plan, and what I had been told by, all of the textbooks and all of the doulas and all of the things, was that when you are in early labor, the best thing to do is to ignore the contractions for as long as possible until you can't ignore them. Because typically early labor is just kind of intermittent contractions, and, contractions that you can like talk through or you can be distracted by. And so that was my plan. My plan was like, okay, I'm having contractions, I'm just gonna ignore it. I'm gonna keep going about my day. And that was not really working. I was like, I cannot not pay attention to these. And I'm like, this is really frustrating because I was supposed to not pay attention to these, and I can't help but pay attention.
Right.
And I remember thinking at one point, like, I need to eat. And I got really, really frustrated because I don't remember to this day what happened, but I remember telling somebody, like, I need to eat lunch. And it was like 3:30 by the time that we came home. So it was like 3:30 and I hadn't had lunch. And I was like, I need to eat. And nobody else was worried about it. Like nobody else, like I think I asked somebody, could they make me a sandwich or do something? Because I was just like, I need to go sit down or lay down or something. And like nobody understood the urgency of how much I needed to eat. And it was making me super irrationally angry. And I was like, looking back at it, I'm like, I mean, somebody brought me food. So like, I don't know why, but I don't know. It's one of those weird pregnancy fog things. So my mom got her Doppler out and she went to, try to find Liam. And she said she found his heartbeat and it was fine. But she said, he's laying on your right side. And I was like, what? Because he had been head down with his back, like his spine touching my left side for pretty much the entirety of my third trimester. Like this baby was perfect. Like he was always in exactly the right spot for delivery.
And for the audience, usually for most of the large majority of the time, the ideal position for a baby to start labor is with their spine on your left side and their head down. And so that's why when he was found on the right side, Jillian was like confused because he was in the perfect position, and then he kind of switched over. So keep going.
Yeah. So mom was like, okay, you're going to need to try to flip him over. You're going to need to try to flip him to the other side. I'm like, okay. So, did a couple of things, and then I went downstairs with my husband, and I was like, okay, let's watch some Ted Lasso. Because again, I was still like, I need to distract myself from these contractions. I need to not pay attention to them right away. And that was still not working. And so I was at one point, my husband was sitting on the couch and I was trying to eat, and I was sitting on the ball, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are a lot more intense than I thought they'd be. And I was like, this is unpleasant. This is very, very unpleasant. And I was like trying to do different positions, and I ended up, so like my husband was sitting on the couch, and I ended up kind of like sitting on his lap, like facing him, but it's a really hard position to describe. But I was basically sitting on his lap, but kneeling and holding on to the back of the couch.
Okay. But you found a position that was working for you.
Comfortable, yeah.
It was comfortable, and so I was sitting there, and he was rubbing my back, and I was like, I don't feel good. This sucks. Like, and then I felt like, and I was like, I think the baby moved. I think he got back in position. And Will was like, okay, great. So my chiropractor, Dr. Josh, who was absolutely wonderful, came to the house around 8:30-ish, and gave me a readjustment. And my mom,
I love Dr. Josh.
He's so great. Nice. Yeah,
he's great. I love him so much. He was my chiropractor for the entirety of the pregnancy. So he came, did the readjustment because I was a little bit out of line. And my mom, palpated around. She found the baby, and she was like, yep, he's in the right spot. We're good to go. So, it's 8:30-ish, 9-ish. And at some point, I don't honestly remember when, but my mother told me, Jill, you're in labor. And I was like, yay, and started crying.
Aww.
Because I was like, I kind of figured I was, but like, I wasn't really sure.
Being a first-time mom,
You're right.
Yeah, right. So she had moved Will and I into her bedroom upstairs. So that way I didn't have to do stairs postpartum. So I was in the bedroom and I was laboring, and I was kneeling by the side of the bed because I knew it was okay to like vocalize with contractions and stuff. And it was my parents' house, so I didn't feel awkward about making noise or anything. But I remember making a noise that I can only describe as like a wail. Like not like sorry, let me rephrase. Not like a whale as in like the animal that swims through the ocean. Like a
yeah, that's totally what I was picturing. Like Nemo,
like you wailed. Right.
I wailed. Yeah. No, I thought I realized, I'm like, oh, that's not the greatest way to explain that, because they're both smiling and laughing. I'm like, no. It was not like it was like it was not a great noise.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking vaguely somewhere in the very back of my head, why am I so upset? Was basically the feeling that I had. And my mom told me days afterwards that because she was either in the room with me or she was nearby, and she saw me kneel down and just let out this like wail, and she thought to herself, that's weird. I have only ever heard people make that noise when there's been a loss. She didn't obviously say that to me at the time, and I had no idea. All I remember from that first phase is just feeling like, if this is early labor and this is the easy stuff, I'm never going to make it. This is way too hard. I'm not strong enough to handle this. This is so difficult. Like, what am I doing? Like, all that kinds of stuff. At some point, I don't remember when, it might have been earlier in the day. I think it might have been earlier in the day because I had a feeling like this is just not what I expected early labor to be like. I had Will time my contractions. I was having contractions every 2 minutes for any length, like a length of a minute to like 30 seconds, 45, a minute, minute and a half, anywhere around there. And then my uterus would relax, or no, that the contraction would subside, but my uterus would not relax completely. Like I would feel the wave go down and I'm like, it's still tight. It still hurts. And pretty much everything I do, it just feels really tight and really painful. And my mom at one point was, I think this was definitely earlier in the day. She was asking me, she's like, where does it, like, what's it feeling like? Because she was my doula. She's like, where, what does it feel like? Where is it hurting? And I was like, it's in like my hips. Like if you drew a straight line across from like straight across the like mid part of my hip, that's what it hurts. Like it's just too tight. Everything is too tight. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, I feel like if you could I wanted somebody to grab a hold of either hip bone and just pull apart like one of those plastic Easter eggs. And just break it, just rip it open, because I'm like, this is way too tight and like the baby can't get out was the thought that was rolling through my head. I'm like, everything is too tight. It's just, it's too tight. He can't get out.
Backed by the most up-to-date science and research, we bring you the best prenatal on the market. Full Well is an amazing prenatal vitamin formulated with the best of the best ingredients and bioavailable nutrient and mineral forms that help to fill in nutrition gaps for mom and baby. These prenatal vitamins are tested for consistent dosing and heavy metals and then verified by a third party for every single batch. That way, you know what you are buying is truly what you need.
Not only does Full Well have an amazing prenatal, they also carry women and men's fish oil, a men's multivitamin, a fertility booster, and an amazing Nourished Nerves calming tincture, which is one of our favorites. We are both so happy to announce that we can offer you guys a 10% discount on your first order. So you just have to use the code TNBT10. So that's the Natural Birth Talk, TNBT10. The link is in the description below. You can insert that code into the coupon code box to save. Hey, Tiffany, do you have any tips for someone who pee-pees their pants a little bit when they say jump or sneeze? I'm just asking for a friend.
Actually, I have a fantastic suggestion that can be done in the comfort of your own home and was created by published researchers with a background in exercise physiology and physical therapy. It's called Tighten Your Tinkler.
Oh my gosh, silly name, but it must have some serious results.
Yeah, learn more by listening to the audio testimonial in the description or use code TNBT50 for $50 off the signature program.
Hey listener, do you want a comprehensive yet concise and inexpensive online at your own pace natural birth education course to help you prepare for natural birth, pregnancy, and postpartum? Then check out the description below for that and our helpful products guide. Now back to the show. Well, and sometimes, and I'm just going to say this for the listener's sake, sometimes we see like when moms start labor like 2 minutes apart and they're really intense like that, it's because baby's not in a great position, which Liam wasn't. And then really the only reason I point out that distinction is because I don't want any of the listeners to get scared if their labor starts 2 to 3 minutes apart like that and then them think something might be wrong.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, keep going.
Because I talked to my mom about it afterwards, and she said, to the best of her, diagnostic capabilities, she felt like I was having tectonic contractions. I always get it wrong, but basically that kind of thing where they're really hard, really fast, really close together. And yeah, it's usually for, the baby's in the wrong position and the uterus is just like doing everything it can to try to get the baby in the right position. And she made a point to tell me that she's like, not every pregnant woman experiences these kinds of contractions. Not every pregnant woman who experiences these kinds of contractions always has a loss.
Yeah.
And not every pregnant woman who has had these kinds of contractions and has had a loss, the next time that you have a pregnancy, you are going to have these contractions again. She's like, it's not like a guarantee. Like, this is just a thing that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So I kept laboring. Somewhere in the middle of the, like, I think it was probably, I remember laying down on my side at one point, and I remember feeling Liam kind of kick a little bit, and I remember feeling him like wiggle his head. And I told Will, I was like, I feel the baby moving. And he's like, oh, okay. Because I always like told him when I could feel it, so he could try to feel it. And I honestly don't know. I know I was up pretty late that first night because it was just, the contractions were just incessant. Like, they would not stop. And we tried the TENS unit. That was pretty good for the back labor. So I would recommend that. I think I might have gotten into the bathtub a couple of times because we did not have the birth pool up, which this is a whole long story short. We had a birth pool that we had borrowed from a friend. She had loaned it to another friend, and it had not been cleaned properly when it was given back to her. So when we got it, which she did not know. So when my friend gave it to us, it was covered in mold. There was still, there was still water in it. My mom, it was bad. So behind the scenes, as I'm, laboring, my mom is frantically posting on Facebook, calling up friends, being like, hey, does anybody have a birth pool? Does anybody have a birth pool? Because my midwives had some, but I think they were already dropped off at other people's houses or something.
Yeah.
So somewhere in the middle of the night, I think probably anywhere between like 10 and midnight, but probably closer to the like midnight area of time, I finally fell asleep.
Okay.
And
because at this point in your labor, you're not at a point in labor where the hospital would have kept you, even if you were going to the hospital. Like, they would have sent you right home.
No, absolutely not. I was, because it was from my labor started somewhere around 3:30, and my midwife ended up coming the next day and checked me at somewhere after 10 a.m. the following day, and I was only 2 centimeters dilated.
Yeah. So at that point, you'd still be laboring at home whether you were having a home birth or not.
Right?
Yeah, no. This was pretty textbook. Even if I had been planning a hospital pregnancy or a hospital delivery, I'd still be at home because it was too early.
Right.
So next day rolls around. My midwife, Casey, comes to drop off the birth pool because she found one. So we're like, yay, wonderful. And it's about 10 in the morning. And she was like, well, while I'm here, I'll just go ahead and check the baby's position, do the normal thing. And I remember laying there and feeling very relaxed and peaceful, like, oh, okay, I've got a little bit of a reprieve. Like, I could tell that I had rested for a little bit that night. And I remember like the contractions were not contracting. And so I was like, okay, good. I've got a little bit of a breather. I can, relax. And Casey got out her Doppler, and she was having a bit of a hard time with it. And she said something about she had used it in a water birth recently. And so she's like, I don't think this is working quite right. I don't think I dried it off enough. And then she got out her portable ultrasound machine, and she started looking around and looking around and looking around and looking around. And I didn't really think anything about that because I don't know, I just didn't really think anything of it. And she looked at my mom, and she asked her, when you were a nurse, did you do a lot of ultrasounds? And my mom said, yeah, I got ultrasound training.
Uh-huh.
I thought they were just chatting because
Yeah.
they're both nurses, they're both birth workers. I thought they were just, chatting it up. In reality, um, I mean, they were still doing the nurse thing, but they were doing that thing where, they're trying to talk to each other and be like, hey, do you see what I see? Yeah, I do. And without freaking out the patient.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Casey, my midwife, looked at me and she said, I can't find a heartbeat. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't I could hear what she was saying, but I didn't understand what she was getting at.
Yeah.
And she said, she's like, I'm right over the chest cavity, and I don't see anything. And I looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, explain this to me. And my mom was already crying at that point. And then I was like, oh no, if my mom's crying,
Yeah.
there's a problem here. And so she showed me the ultrasound and she's like, yeah, see right here, this is where we should see cardiac movement and we're not seeing any. And I was like, okay. And still not really totally getting it.
Yeah.
And she said, I'll be the first to admit that I am not the best at reading ultrasounds. So I'm going to call Megan and see if she can, take a look. And I'm like, yeah, totally, call her. That's fine. So she called Megan. Megan came and she looked at it and was like, yeah, no. And I don't remember if this was between, I think I had this conversation before Megan got there, but I honestly don't know. I remember asking, like, okay, well, like, what can we do? Should we go to the hospital? Because I'm like, maybe the hospital has, a better ultrasound or something. And maybe they can, maybe something's just wrong with the machine, and maybe they can, like, they were both like, we can go. But it's not going to show you anything different. And so I was like, okay. So when it really fully settled in that he was gone, and honestly, I think to a certain extent, some parts of me didn't really fully accept that he was gone until like days after the delivery.
I think that's probably normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I just didn't have the time to like I didn't have the time to, I didn't have the time to cry. I didn't have time to really like freak out. I didn't have time to rage against the machine. I was still in labor. So I was laboring and doing all of those things kind of at the same time. Which, 0 out of 10 would not recommend. So after I found out that Liam was gone, pretty much all motivation left at that point.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what is the point?
Right.
Like why am I doing this? Because the whole reason that I had wanted to do a home birth was I knew it was going to be best for my son. I knew it was going to be best for me. And I'm like, he's not going to gain any of the benefits that you get from having a home birth. Like, he's not going to get we're not going to have golden hour. We're not going to have, anything really. Like, you name it, we won't have it. And so I remember thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the hospital. I'm going to walk in there. I'm going to demand that they give me a C-section, and I'm just going to get him out of me, and I'm just going to have it over with.
Yeah. Which is a reasonable thought.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And I remember telling my mom, because I think she asked me like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I'll be honest, I just want to go to the hospital. I just want to get the C-section and just be done. Like I'm why? And she said, okay, we can go to the hospital, we can do that, but they're probably not going to just like just give you a C-section. They're probably going to have you labor there for longer. And I was like, okay, well, if I have to keep laboring, I may as well stay at home because I don't want to go to the hospital and have a bunch of strange people looking at me and asking me questions. And I just was like, I don't want to do that. So okay, fine, I'll just stay here for a bit longer then.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I have to jump off of here. My son has a field trip. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for coming on, though. I know Rachel obviously is going to stay on, but I just wanted to say thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I feel like it's an important story for people to hear. So, thank you.
You can listen to the rest of it.
I'm going to. I'm absolutely going to. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Tiffany.
See you later.
I had a feeling I wasn't going to be able to keep it under 30 minutes.
It's okay. It wasn't something that I was willing to rush you with. So
appreciate it. So at one point, after we heard the news, I was laying in the bed and I was talking to my husband, and I was like, what do you want to see happen here? And he basically said, I think we should stay here. I think that we will have our best. If we stay here, we'll be able to keep him for as long as we want to before we have to call the coroner's office and all of that kind of stuff. And I think the thing that was really the big, no, I don't think, I know the thing that was the biggest driving point was that my husband said he wanted to catch Liam. He still wanted to catch him. And that was really, like, I didn't realize it at the time because we had talked about it while I was pregnant. Like, hey, do you want to catch the baby? And he was kind of like, he didn't really care one way or the other.
Yeah.
He was like, I want to be there for you. And so whatever you want, like that's fine. Like, we'll make that work. And I think I kind of played it off afterwards that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, whoever's there can catch it. I might catch, my mom might catch, maybe Will catch, like, just, kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But deep down, I still really wanted him to do it. So when he said, like, no, I still want to, I was like, okay, well, then that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Sorry to make you guys wait another 2 weeks for the rest of the story, but thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions between now and the next episode, feel free to reach out to me or Tiffany at contact@thenaturalbirthsite.com, and definitely tune in 2 weeks for the rest of Jillian's story.
Hi, Rachel Manns again. If you want to learn more, please subscribe to and rate this podcast, and head over to thenaturalbirthsite.com to check out our online natural birth education course, birth story blog, YouTube channel, and more.